Everybody, welcome back to the Film Tangents podcast. On this mic, you
Welcome
have
back.
you have Jake, and on the other mic, you have.
He's lying. I'm Jake. That's Edward. Stop letting him confuse you guys.
You know, we're gonna keep
Welcome back.
we gotta keep the audience on their toes. We gotta keep them guessing. It's like who is actually Edward here?
Yeah.
Um,
Who's who?
But let me do this because Jake did it last time. As a reminder, everybody, please, please, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you feel inspired to, leave a comment. Click that bell notification to be notified of when these videos come out so that hopefully when they come out, as they do, you'll be at work and you can, instead of doing work, listen
Yeah.
to the podcast.
That's right, everybody. So make sure you clip on that. I don't know if you've heard about this, Edward, but I think I put something about it on our channel. There's a device that jiggles your mouse to make it look like you're still active when you're away from your desk.
Really?
So yeah. But I haven't gotten one. It just seems like, dude, it just seems like a slippery slope. Because like that's like what keeps me at my desk a lot of times is like just knowing that I have to keep moving that mouse, otherwise I'll start appearing away. Like that's what kind of keeps me like, in check. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
so be mindful, but anyone listening, you guys, clip on your mouse jigglers and let's go. Let's do this thing.
Moving on from that to a little bit of a serious topic. A legend that wrote fantastic books, fantastic novels, that inspired one of the greatest films of the 21st century has passed away. And that person is Cormac McCarthy, author of No Country for Old Men. He passed away at 89 years old.
Yeah. Rest in peace. I just found this out from Edward right before we went on the air here. So yeah, RIP. I'm still kind of in shock. I did not hear about this until, like I said, just now. So yeah, man. He was a legend, man. He was an absolute legend. He wrote fantastic novels. I've read No Country for Old Men, and I've read Blood Meridian.
Did you read The Road?
I saw the movie The Road, but
I have to see that movie.
I think I read some of The Road. I'm ashamed to say I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
But I did read some of The Road. So, make of that what you will.
Yeah.
But Blood Meridian, Blood Meridian, I can see why a lot of people like that book and have been trying to make that book into a film.
Yeah.
It's
this is
it's quite something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, even just kind of the general plot of that book is really interesting. You just have basically this company of bounty hunters who, I guess, and it's been a few years since I've read it, but basically, I believe it's the government is paying, in the Old West, is paying out bounties on, I want to say, but there's a certain Native American tribe or something like that. So they get paid to actually like bring back Native American scalps. And the whole book is just this very like, it is. I can see why it's been tough for them to make it into a film. It's a very just brooding, psychological, philosophical kind of book. Has one of the most depraved villains of all time in the character the judge. Just an absolutely demented, depraved villain. Disgusting, despicable, but fascinating character. So I just wanted to give that book a little bit of love, real quick. And obviously, No Country for Old Men. Very, the film's great, the book's great too. It's definitely, I want to say, unorthodox the way it's written in terms of the prose. Cormac McCarthy, which for me it was the most noticeable in No Country for Old Men, because I think he very much wrote that book like a movie screenplay. I think he definitely wanted, and I don't know this for sure, but it seemed like he definitely wanted that book to become a movie or envisioned it as a movie, because the prose is just very straightforward. He doesn't even use punctuation really. There's no commas or anything like that. If he has a sentence where someone's doing something, the sentence is just a run-on sentence where he said he'll go like, Llewellyn got out of the car and shut the door and walked in and set the water jug down, and his wife asked him da da da, and that's like all one sentence right there, and it's just and he's just getting right to the point. It makes for breezy reading though. I mean, it's just like it works. You got to know what you're doing to write a book that way. But it worked, man. It worked, especially for after seeing the movie and still being interested in reading the book, and getting a new perspective and seeing into the characters' minds after watching the movie was really interesting.
It says here on his Wikipedia page, it says Cormac McCarthy, he was born July 20th, 33, and he passed away June 13th, 23. He was shy of being 90 by a little bit over a month. And ultimately, it just says he was known for his graphic depictions of violence and his unique writing style, recognizable by a sparse use of punctuation and attribution, like you said. McCarthy is widely regarded as one of the greatest American novelists, and he won a Pulitzer Prize for The Road. So obviously, there's no words to say that we've had a great loss. But at least the man gave us a lot of great stories and a lot to think about. And for me, some novels to read, possibly by him, because I have not read any of them. I've only seen No Country for Old Men. I haven't even seen The Road.
Oh, you haven't seen The Road?
Mm-mm.
Oh, for some reason I thought you had. Yeah, Road's pretty good. Viggo Mortensen.
Like Viggo.
The Road. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Great actor. Fantastic in what's the movie I'm thinking of? Not Lord of the Rings. He's great in that too. History of Violence.
Yeah, History of Violence.
I like. It's a good movie.
Which is interesting. That movie has been on my mind because James Gunn mentioned it as one of his favorite comic book adaptations.
Yep, I have. I actually have read the graphic novel for that as well. It is a great adaptation of the graphic novel. Again, I read the graphic novel after seeing the movie.
Did I introduce you to that movie?
You did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You're the one who told me about it, and I thought that sounded interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you mentioned it was directed by David Cronenberg, and I thought that was
I
thought that was interesting. Yeah, because he's usually doing just body horror stuff. So, but there's one Cormac McCarthy book, Child of God. I do want to read that one. That's definitely on my reading list. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that one, it depicts the life of a violent young outcast and serial killer in the 1960s. It's like a kid who's a serial killer, basically. He wasn't afraid to tackle very dark, interesting kind of material.
Yeah.
I'll remember just another, sort of fond sort of, tribute to Cormac McCarthy here. As an aspiring, not aspire. I don't particularly like that word. If you're an author, you're an author. As an author who's working hard, let's say, to become great, there's I'll listen to interviews with great authors, and I like listening to Stephen King interviews, Clive Barker interviews, and I've definitely watched and listened to a couple of Cormac McCarthy interviews. I believe it was with Oprah when he was on the Oprah Winfrey show, but he said that at one point when he was like an up and coming novelist, he was flat broke. He was like unemployed, down to like had $10 in his bank account, and Oprah was like, well, didn't you think you should have like gotten a job? And he was like, well, yeah, but I was busy writing. He's like, I was busy. I was like, that's the response right there.
That's a great
That's
response.
a man who's in.
Yeah,
That's a man who's in love with his craft right there.
Absolutely.
I respect the hell out of that.
Absolutely. But with all of our respects being given, what do you say we move on to our next topic?
Yeah. Yep. Massive respect to Cormac McCarthy. Rest in
Massive.
peace.
Please, yes, rest in peace. What I have for you, it's a little bit of a shift, but maybe it's like a little bit in line with remembering Mr. McCarthy, and it is UFOs are a thing. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't know. It seems like you're way more in tune with what's in the news this week than I am.
Dude, I I watched an episode of, I guess it was like an alignment with the stars in my head. I watched an episode of Rogan. Or not really an episode. I watched like a video that was recommended to me on YouTube because the thumbnail, or like rather the title, was kind of captivating, and it had to do with UFOs. And the title was something along the lines of like, ex-US like secret agent, reveals UFOs or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like this episode where Rogan is like speaking with this other guy who also used to work for the government, and they watched like a video of a guy who used to be a U.S. government, and he says he's like, the government is hiding, UFOs. They're like, they exist, and I know they exist, and I know people that know they exist, and it's all this secret stuff, and. But not only that, there's been like an ongoing and an increasing kind of like UFO presence, or like a UFO like awareness or discourse. It just kind of keeps coming around. Like I think, if I'm not mistaken, not long ago, like NASA confirmed that they themselves believe that we have had like UFO visits and stuff, or like that there's like extraterrestrial presence. So there's been a lot of that.
Weird.
They confirmed that. There's been a lot of that going on. Unless I'm bullshitting, I believe they did. You can Google this while I'm speaking if you want to. But I believe NASA confirmed it. And some people believe, some conspiracy theories believe that it has to do with like, maybe there's some political stuff that's going to happen, or people believe that the government's trying to align disclosing, extraterrestrial information with some kind of like, new law or new thing or new scandal, new whatever. So that happened. And that exact same day that happened with Rogan, I come home and I find out that there's like this story in Texas. And there's like even like police video footage of this. And this guy posted like a video on YouTube of like what he recorded with his phone. Something happened in Texas where through police video, you can see that there's like this green flash and something crashes. And that something crashed in a family's backyard. And then that family claimed that aliens crashed in their backyard, but they couldn't really see them. They could kind of see them, but not see them completely, And the video is online. It was like all over the news. You can Google this up. Google like Texas UFO, and you'll probably see what I'm talking about.
What the hell?
So this family heard that something crashed. They went to their backyard, and what they could see in the shadows were like these big. They described it as like very tall figures, and so because they were kind of scared, they called the police, and the police released the body cam footage. Like the police footage exists. The police responded to the call, and the police themselves believed the family when the family said to them, like, I think we're dealing with like aliens, something fell. And the police were like, no, we believe you, And they were like had their guns out or something. They were gonna shoot the aliens. And the family were saying like, something crashed.
Too bad.
And something was like on our
Too
roof.
bad they did.
Because we would hear something. We heard something like moving on top of our roof. And ultimately it was inconclusive. They couldn't find anything. But there exists a video that has like some frames in which maybe something's there, but people are not clear. But all of that being said, I know that what I just said, it was like a whole fucking mess of words. But dude,
now I got some thoughts.
Are we
Well, first,
amongst aliens?
or are aliens
Amongst
amongst
us. Yeah,
us?
exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
aliens amongst us. That's what
uh,
it
I don't know, man. I think, I'm a skeptic, right?
is.
And I became a skeptic, as you may know,
Yes.
a sort of, a real skeptic, not a cynic, not a doubter, not a, I'd never want to be like sure to the other end, on the opposite end, where I'm trying to affirm a negative, where I'm like, there is no God, or there is no Bigfoot, or are no ghosts. I don't want to be like that either. But a skeptic is someone who stays neutral until it's like, yes, we have definitive, conclusive evidence, right?
Mm.
I think this is, what counts as that. It's like, what counts as evidence, right?
Right.
That's the thing you have to think about with
Because
skepticism, right?
well, I feel like because I think to counter a skepticism, you probably need like hard evidence, which this is not that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but you can also have, you can have conclusive evidence where it's
Mm.
like, hey, we found OJ's prints. um, we found OJ's, where I'm going with
I
that.
know where you're going with it.
But where it's like, okay, we know OJ did it. No, it's good. But yeah. but you can have conclusive evidence, right, where it's like, okay, we've concluded, right, that it's like beyond a reasonable doubt, right? So like, we have conclusive evidence, for
Mm.
example, that gorillas exist, right? And I use
Mm.
that gorillas as an example because gorillas, what a lot of people don't know is gorillas actually used to be like Bigfoot. They were a cryptid. A lot of people don't know this, but they
Mm.
used to be a legend and weren't verified until I think it was like the late 1800s or something.
Mm.
I hope I'm right on that. They weren't discovered, mountain gorillas, until like flesh and blood, until the late 1800s, and then it was like, okay, well, we have conclusive evidence, right, of gorillas. We have specimens. We have them in zoos. We have videos, right? But then you can have inconclusive evidence where it's like, well, you know, for example, you go into you look at Bigfoot, right? Inconclusive evidence. Looking at aliens, but Bigfoot's a good example, I guess. I know a little bit more about that topic. It's like we have inconclusive evidence. It's evidence. We have footprints. We have videos. Grainy kind of videos where it's hard to tell if it's a man in a suit or an actual Bigfoot or if it's a hoax, right? Like, which I guess man in a suit would fall under that. Um, so it's evidence, but it's inconclusive, and that's
Mm.
unfortunately kind of what we're dealing with the aliens. It's like, yes, it's interesting, and I'm super interested in this, and I want to know more.
Mm.
Right? That's where I come from with skepticism, but I'm not willing to say I think it was aliens, right? Because it's like something could have crash landed in
Right.
someone's yard, right?
Right.
And
A
they saw
drone.
tall
Yeah.
figures in the night near it,
Mm.
right? And it's like, okay, where are the bodies, right? Something you said, something crash landed in their yard.
Mm.
Where's the wreckage?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
where's the wreckage? If we found the wreckage, that it would be alien technology, right? And then, like, where'd the wreckage go?
Mm.
Right? The cops were shooting at whoever, maybe did they actually fire shots?
No, they
Or
didn't
they just
fire
had
any
their guns
shots.
drawn?
No, they had their
Right.
guns drawn.
Yeah, again, so it's like another big problem. We just don't have, we don't have a body, right?
Right.
We don't have a specimen, to speak scientifically there. Like, we just don't have enough data.
Mm.
And this whole whistleblower thing, it's even flimsier.
With NASA, or like with the guy, like the FBI guy. Yeah. No, the FBI guy, that's
and
like,
who is he again? He's from the FBI?
he's like from CIA or FBI. So he's like one of
It's got to be
those.
CIA.
Yeah, he's like
That's higher up.
yeah, he's from one of those, like, like intelligence agencies, but I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah,
But
it's probably the CIA
but
because
it's
that seems
very
a little above the FBI. Like FBI is more. I don't know. They don't deal with stuff like that. It seems like it would be CIA.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing with that. Like when I watched that, I was like, "This guy's full of shit." You know, like
Right.
they played like the video of him like talking to like the news reporter, and I was like, oh, "This guy looks like he's full of shit. It's probably gonna sell something," you know. And with that, you know, and even with the NASA thing, where they were just confirming that they believe that we have like, you know, that we've had some kind of alien interaction. Even with that, I was like, I don't know, you know, I don't know what's going on. And this thing doesn't really add anything. Like, it doesn't push me over the edge to being like, oh my God, you know. But
Yeah.
it feels to me, you know, it feels to me like we're building up to something.
Absolutely. I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to say, like, well, this seems like, yeah, who knows, man? I mean, it probably felt like that for a long time for
Mm-hmm.
UFO enthusiasts, though.
Mm-hmm.
Same with like ghost enthusiasts. Same with, you know, finding Bigfoot every season. Are we going to find him? You know, it's like it almost seems with stuff like this, it's always two steps forward, one step
But
back.
I
Where
feel the worst.
go
Sorry to
ahead.
interrupt you. I feel the worst about
There you
ghost
go.
enthusiasts because they have to understand. They just have to understand that Patrick Swayze. They're not going to find him. They're not going to find Patrick Swayze. They're not going to find Patrick Swayze. He's impossible to find. But I think
Oh,
but he passed away, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So
He's been gone a long time.
yeah, rest in peace to him, and I hope they don't find him. I hope they don't find his ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of fucked up, Edward. It kind of worked on two levels because he's, you know, passed away and he was in the movie Ghost.
No, but I don't mean any disrespect. That was just a silly joke. But yeah. But yeah, I don't know. But like I was saying before, it really does feel like that joke's staying. But I really does feel it really does feel like we're building up to something. And I don't know what that means. Do you think we're ready for that? Like, do you think humanity is like ready for that? You know?
I don't know, man. I mean, we already have our plates full with the AI stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, look, it could be. Well, and one more thing about the skepticism stuff too. You also have, and this has been a great deal of debate between skeptics and believers of all sorts of things, whether it's religious believers, flat earth believers, Bigfoot believers, like whatever it is, where the idea of claims being evidence,
Mhm.
right? So generally the skeptic's position is that claims are not evidence, right? You have a claim of something and then you need the evidence for that claim of something, but the claim itself is not the evidence, right? So like, you know, but then I can see the other side where it's like, okay, well, what if we have eyewitness testimony that says, hey, I saw, you know, Edward leaving the bank when it was being robbed, right? Like running out of the bank when it was being robbed. Do we then say, well, that's a claim, we need evidence? And I mean, you know, I'm not an expert in court of law stuff, but it does seem like we need additional evidence than just someone claiming that they saw you. But on the other hand, I feel, I mean, courts have eyewitness testimony. They admit eyewitness testimony all the time as evidence. So it's flimsy, you know?
Yeah.
I'm willing to grant that maybe this guy's claims are, you know, a form of evidence, but
His whole
it's like,
family,
well,
unless they're a bunch of grifters.
well, you got that's the thing. Here's the thing, right? And this is what you realize when you look into skepticism is that people have been claiming things in verifying each ot's crazy stories, you know, for centuries.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Like they've been what's the word I'm looking for? Not verifying, but like if I verify your story, not verify, but
I know I know there's a
it's
word
like hanging on.
fuck. I
Like
don't
back
remember.
up your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like on the tip of my tongue.
Certifying is not certifying.
Yeah, whatever it is. People are listening like these guys are idiots. It's this work. But people have been, backing up each other's crazy stories for centuries.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? For millennia, right? Like it's I watched a documentary when I was a kid, again, to go back to Bigfoot. I watched a documentary when I was a kid where a father and a daughter sat down, talked to National Geographic, and told National Geographic, "Hey, there's a family of Bigfoots that live in the forest around our house. They speak English." They had a whole family tree drawn out of like the names. They said, "Hey, sometimes one of the Bigfoots will come to our back door and ask for cheese, or something like that."
Mhm.
And you think to yourself, well, that's really unbelievable. Like, that's super unbelievable. So you're like, okay, this is probably made up. So therefore, if it is made up, then it's possible for not only one person to make up something kooky, but for multiple people to go along with it, right?
Right.
That's also, for me personally, I don't want to offend anybody, but that's my issue with religions as well. People
Mhm.
say, well, in my religion, in my religion, all of these people together said they saw the same thing. And I'm like, so what? Right? Like, who cares?
Straight out of Compton.
You think people,
Yeah.
what'd you say?
I was just
What'd you
like,
say?
for some reason, you saying that made me think like, for some reason, like you saying that made me think that there was like a moment in that interaction in which like the song Straight Outta Compton just started playing.
Oh, so, but people have been, the word I was looking for is corroborating.
Yeah, there it
Like, people
is.
have been
Yeah.
there it is. People have been corroborating each other's Looney Tune stories for a long time, man. And
Yeah.
it's just not enough. I mean, there's a guy, I forget his name. They made a movie about him which I haven't seen, but I know of it, called Fire in the Sky.
Mhm.
He was on Joe Rogan's show, and he claims to have been kidnapped by aliens and, taken
Oh
up in a
yeah. Oh
spaceship
yeah.
and being
I've seen that
probed
one.
and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, well, and also the skeptic point of view too is to not even, you don't want to assume people are lying, right? Because then you're making a claim. You're making a positive claim that someone's lying, and you actually need to then back up that claim with your own evidence that
Mhm.
they're lying. So you want to basically take at face value what people are saying, that they truly believe they saw what they said, what they're claiming to have seen,
Mhm.
but that they may have misunderstood or misidentified something. The only place where I would make an exception for that is if they tell you that fucking Bigfoots came to their back door and asked for soup.
Yeah.
Then you assume they're making shit up.
Yeah. Now that just ties closer to the movie of the week than anything else.
Yeah, it really does. It does. It does. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, and to sort of answer your question, are we, ready for it? No, not at
Yeah. I don't
all.
think we are. Yeah.
Um,
I
I
think
think that goes without saying.
I think
Go
this
ahead.
planet has been through a lot, and it's
Oh yeah.
interesting when you think about these things, like just like I mean, just in the past, like what, 23, 25 years, like technology has accelerated like exponentially. AI is like a thing that before just used to be like a movie where somebody goes, I'll be back, or I will be back, as Arnold wanted to to say.
Yeah.
um,
Come
but
with me if you
yeah,
want to live.
but like things have accelerated to such like a fast extent, and obviously we are living right now like in a world that is like post, I don't even know if you can say this anymore. Like I don't, that that word, the word that that I'm gonna say was like a word that if you put it in your YouTube title, it was like it was like no, this video now has to be like like restricted in some way. But we are post the 19. I'm gonna say. Um, so it feels like people are dealing with a lot right now, a lot of trauma, a lot of kind of dealing with all these things that have happened, and the you
Oh,
know
I know what you're talking about. Post the sickness.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So we're post that. So we're living in a world post that, and we're living in a world that is like now dealing with like extremely like advanced technology and with AI and with all this stuff and with politics and division and the threat of nuclear war, World War III, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. I don't even know if you can say those words without getting striked by YouTube. Um, but yeah, I feel like the aliens is like the last thing. It's like that's the last thing. It's like, oh, now this. It's like now this. Now you look out the window and there's like a lanky, gray person with big eyes. It's like, oh my god, now this. What else? What else is next? But yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
Well, what's interesting too is you reminded me of it. I want to bring it up because of what you're saying about tall, lanky, gray aliens with, all the almond eyes. Like any skeptic will tell you too. They know a lot of, people who have studied skepticism and looked into skepticism. They'll tell you that what's interesting about alien sightings, let's say,
Mhm.
is that back when alien sightings were happening, say in the 40s and 50s, right? People were they weren't seeing the gray aliens with the almond shaped eyes and whatnot. They were seeing sort of like little green men type people, type beings. Then it wasn't until
type people.
it wasn't it wasn't until after the around the late 70s, suspiciously around when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, that people began to see the gray aliens with the almond eyes and the tall, lanky, and the big head, lanky
that movie,
figures
like,
and big
movie,
head.
like, pictured them that way.
Yeah, it plants something in your mind. And the thing about humans is they are pattern recognition machines. That's why we see faces in the clouds and shapes in the clouds.
Yeah, no,
and that's why we see faces in the dark. And we are pattern recognition machines, and we're going to be forever misidentifying things. That's why eyewitness testimony in the court in courts a lot of times undergoes a lot more scrutiny. And thank God nowadays we have actual DNA forensics and stuff like that, which didn't really even come around until like the 1980s, I think it was. Because eyewitness testimony is shit. That's like the worst type of testimony, because people get confused about things. When you were talking about the police showing up, it reminded me of a story that I heard. It was like a few years back. There were cops that said, they were responding to like a domestic dispute. And apparently the claim was that this woman was possessed. And the cops said, yeah, she like spider walked, like The Exorcist. And they didn't say like The Exorcist, but they said, she was doing this crazy, thing and walking like a spider and stuff. And it's like, well, maybe she was, but it's like you probably have seen The Exorcist or other possession movies, and you're seeing this woman act crazy, and then your mind is filling in the gaps and you think you hear demon noises. It's just so. Anyway, not to rain on Rogan's parade or whatever, but not that he gives one fuck less. But
yeah, and not that we shouldn't,
yeah, but yeah, we just don't have enough data. But I will say, I agree, we're not freaking ready for aliens at all whatsoever. Yeah. And it could be that, and I've thought of this a lot, that we're living in some sort of, and this is not a new idea, this has been explored, and I feel like this was explored. I think there's a South Park about this, but there's, this has been explored in other media too, that we're just living on some sort of alien zoo. We could just be on some sort of alien nature preserve. And, it's sort of like our sightings of them are the way, like, when we're on a safari, lions might see us driving by and they're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
The hell was that shit?
It's one of
those things.
It's one of those things, right? That it gets to that whole thing of like, oh, humanity's just, a speck of dust in the eye of a giant. It's like, at that point it gets a little bit too elusive. Like, what's the point? But that's an interesting. That always has been kind of an interesting idea to me. But yeah, yes,
yeah.
Fascinating stuff. We'll see. Maybe by next week we'll be like, oh my god, there's aliens. They're shaking Joe Biden's hand on TV.
Can you imagine that? He's like, he like walks on stage. He like shakes he like shakes a person's hand, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you were the alien." It's like, oh.
Well, that would be really.
He's like, "Oh, that's the." It turns around. Oh, that's the alien. He like looks at this big, giant, gray alien. He's like, "Oh, you're the alien. My mistake."
But it's funny if when Joe goes to shake a person's hand and shakes their hand, and he thought like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought you were the alien. It's Hillary Clinton." And then at that moment in history, a camera zooms in, and then a sound goes like, "Bam, boom, bam, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam."
No, Edward, she's not an alien. She's a lizard person.
She's a lizard person. That's right. Lizard person. That's right.
Yeah, that shit's wacky.
Ooh.
That those theories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, like, oh shit, I had a thought, and then we started laughing about. I made a really easy, cheap Joe Biden joke, and I forgot.
Yeah.
Forgot to.
And I doubled down on that joke.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And you got one in. Threw Hillary in there too. Now listen, guys, we're in part. We're we'll make fun of any politician. Don't get offended. Anyone listening?
Yeah.
I'm actually generally a liberal person myself. If you must know, listener. But we welcome all. Welcome all comers.
Yes.
And unless you're unless you're a piece of shit, don't. Unless you're a neo-Nazi, then, then please.
In which case,
click away.
Yeah, you're not welcome. But no, we still have respect for these folks, regardless of who they are. Not the neo-Nazis, but I mean, like, if we're making fun of somebody, we still have respect for them at the end of the day. But it's all jokes. It's all jokes. Now, all of this being said, did this preamble allow you to remember where you were going?
Had something else to say about the fucking aliens. What was it? It was something.
Now you're like
probably not that insightful.
Now you're like that guy, like the History Channel meme guy that goes like, aliens.
I love that, dude. Ancient aliens is the shit, man. I love that stuff with the like ancient civilizations and shit, whether it's ancient aliens or the other theories. Like there's that Graham Hancock guy that has been on Joe Rogan's podcast a lot. He has a new Netflix series, which I haven't checked out yet, called I think it's called Ancient Apocalypse or something like that. But I have his book, Fingerprints of the Gods, and he talks about and again, he's someone I definitely look at his stuff with through a skeptical lens. And sometimes I do think he jumps to conclusions a little bit, but I think he makes a sound hypothesis, at least, which is that we find all these different civilizations all around the world who have supposedly never had contact with each other, but they somehow share, cultural motifs, architectural motifs, whether it's like megalithic sites, like pyramids and whatnot. You find like people in Australia sharing DNA with Native Americans. It's like, what's that about?
What's the name of the author that wrote this?
Graham Hancock. Yeah, you see things like, he writes a lot about a site in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, which is this massive ancient temple. I think he said something like 50 times what's underground is 50 times larger than Stonehenge, which is insane. And it's from 12,000 years ago when we thought people were just running around with sticks and stones and spears.
Well,
right?
and that's
and it's like, what the hell's that about? Like what? And he's not even an ancient aliens guy. He talks about think he leans toward more of a, hey, there's probably a lost ancient civilization that we don't know about, that we haven't discovered yet, that was, passing on this knowledge, to these other civilizations that's now lost, and that's a good hypothesis, I think.
Yeah.
But again, you can't jump to conclusions and say yes or no on it,
Right.
because we just don't have enough data.
That's the fascinating thing about stuff like that, right? And Rogan touched on that, like on that podcast that he had. And it's like this theory which I associate with like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's basically what you're saying, exactly what you're saying. That it's like that we at some point were just like this, apes, or this like just things with sticks, smashing them into the ground, and that at some point we came into contact with something, and that human beings are just like this like result of like not evolutionary, like not evolution, but rather like this like alien interaction, which is very interesting. Very interesting stuff, which is what happens in 2001: Space Odyssey. You have these monkeys, and then you have these like monoliths that they touch and they gain like sentience and intelligence. Very fascinating stuff. Obviously, who knows if we'll ever know the truth, or if we, doing this podcast, or if there's people listening to it right now, will even be alive to witness that point in time. But it is very fascinating to think about. Absolutely.
Yeah. And something about that too, the whole monolith thing in 2001: A Space Odyssey. What's interesting is Kubrick, I don't know exactly, he may have verified this already, but that's been a motif throughout mythology for thousands of years. The whole idea, like the fruit in the garden, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
The fire from Prometheus, the black flame of the ancient Egyptian god Set, which may be more, I think that one may be more of a contemporary idea in Setian spirituality, but at any rate, it's a motif. It's been a motif for thousands of years. And what's interesting about it too is, like, if you look at like Prometheus or the snake in the garden, who may or may not be Lucifer, as an armchair biblical scholar, I don't believe it's Lucifer, but that's another topic. But it always comes in as a form of mischief too, which is sort of interesting. It's like you have like Zeus and Yahweh respectively in these stories, who are like, they want to keep people obedient and subservient and like pets almost, and then this god of mischief comes in and is like, hey, I'm going to give them sentience, I'm going to give them knowledge.
So basically, what you're saying
does that mean Ty Lopez?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
trying to give us knowledge.
That's what I was to say. Like, what you're saying is that all of these books, all of these stories, all these passed on like motifs and symbolisms and all these things have just been telling us, like, hey, watch out for Ty Lopez. They've just been, been telling us, like, Ty Lopez is, he keeps being reincarnated.
Here in my garage. Yeah.
Just here in my garage.
Yeah, that motif is super interesting. Where it's just like, it's always this mischievous sort of thing, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna give the human sentience, and it's sort of like a gift. But I think that comes from the fact that it's a gift and a curse, and that leads us into that whole thing of, that sort of tragedy of human consciousness, where it's like we, are self-aware, and that can be great, and that can also be really fucking painful sometimes, because then we're like, well, we're these flesh and blood things that just are like any other organism that move toward pleasure and away from pain, but there must be more. There's got to be more.
Yeah, there must.
And yeah. And as a skeptic and somewhat of a a student of science and a student of naturalism, I don't particularly believe in really any transcendent sort of reason for stuff, or I really do think that the purpose of life is to move toward pleasure and away from pain, and that's what we fucking do every day, all day, every day. That's all we do. But maybe the aliens will tell us different.
Maybe next podcast we'll talk about how the aliens have eliminated us. I hope so. But actually, I don't. I don't hope so. I hope life remains as alien free as it has for the past existence. But that being said, as we are 45 minutes into our tangents, do you have a topic that you would like to go into?
Oh shit! Already? My God,
times
man.
fly when you're having fun, dude. I hope everybody listening has had a fun time listening to us so far.
Oh man! Wow.
But if you don't, I have some movie news for us.
Yeah. Well, I'll get into something else before we go into the strictly film topics. This is like film adjacent. This is television. I had an interesting question for you, Edward, that I thought of this past week, and it is, and I can answer it first if you need a second to think. But it's about WWE, the world of totally real wrestling entertainment, and it's and my question is, if you look back at WWE, right, when we used to watch it and whatnot, we grew up on that, obviously. And what I wanted to ask you, Edward, is who was the superstar or the wrestler that you would have loved to have seen get a push? And for those listening who, if you watch WWE, you probably know what a push is, but just in case you don't, it just means push to the top, like, you know, becoming a main event star. Who's somebody, Edward, that you kind of liked when you were younger, who just never got that main event push that you think they deserved?
That's a little bit of a tough question. Because when I was a kid and I used to watch the WWE, I had a big appreciation for the big guys, you know, because when you're a kid, you just kind of idolize whoever they're putting in front of you. I never really liked John Cena. I liked his intro, and it was always hype, you know. But I was never a John Cena guy. I was never a John Cena guy. I was always as a kid, you know, a big Batista fan, big Triple H fan, humongous Shawn Michaels fan, who I believe to this day is the GOAT. I was a big Edge fan, big Chris Jericho fan. Like, I was just a big fan of like the guys, you know. And I know every single wrestler of that time, because not only would I watch WWE, but I would also I also had the video games. I had the 2007 SmackDown vs. Raw, 2008 SmackDown vs. Raw featuring ECW. I had 2009. When you come over to my house, we play fucking WWE because I have the games, you know.
Me and Eddie. Shout out to Eddie.
Yeah, no, that was a big part. That was a big part of like my childhood. I loved Ric Flair, loved The Rock, you know. So it's tough.
Baker.
Yeah, Undertaker, obviously. Yeah, Rey Mysterio. I was a big Rey Mysterio fan. Even though, like, now as an adult, I'm like, Rey Mysterio is the biggest. Like, if they had erased Rey Mysterio, they could have retained the idea of believability like longer, you know, than they did.
Yeah,
because Rey Mysterio defeats the whole idea of like, oh yeah, this is believable, you know. When they pushed Rey Mysterio, because they pushed Rey Mysterio really hard, and when they pushed him, like, he just completely destroyed, like, you know, the idea of fucking that thing being believable. Because it's not even kayfabe, because kayfabe is just like in world, like, okay, we're enemies and blah blah blah. It's just like believability. Rey Mysterio killed believability.
Yeah.
But
did they really give Ray a big push though?
I don't feel
like they did.
He was the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, for like a week?
I don't know.
I mean, it wasn't. I feel like they gave him scraps. I don't
know. Like
he would have moments, but then they would take them away.
They'll take them away.
Vince always did that with the small guys because Vince, for whatever reason, Vince McMahon likes big guys.
Yeah,
I mean, I can see that, but it's like,
don't you, Vince?
That's always something. They'll all say that behind the scenes too. Like Vince likes big guys, so he likes the big wrestlers, you know, and that's why, like, Daniel Bryan, they would always like they'd give him shit and then they'd just take it away. Be like, okay, you win, but then Randy's gonna cash in Money in the Bank on you.
That was the thing. That was the thing with Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was after my time, because I stopped watching before he kind of came to prominence. Somebody that was within my time was CM Punk, and I think that probably is your answer. But I don't know if it is because it feels like he got a push, even though it
No,
wasn't
he
like
got that
he
push.
got that
He had
push.
he had like a 410-day reign, I think, as champion.
Yeah.
Like he got that
So
push.
he got his
He felt
way.
yeah, the only thing he didn't get his way with, the big one anyway. There was like a lot of small things that he, from what I understand, that pissed him off, where like they wouldn't take his ideas or listen to his ideas a lot of the time, or like who he wanted to work with.
Mhm.
But he wanted a main event at WrestleMania, and he never got that.
I see.
And that was like the
Oh
big
yeah,
one.
that's right. No, that's
But
right. That's right. That's right. I would say though, because I still believe they gave Mysterio a push, even because he still held the titles,
sure,
and he was insanely popular. Even though
yeah.
they would always take it away from him. Let me think.
I mean, he's a household
He's a
name
household
too.
name. That's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. And that's why I'm not gonna say like other guys that didn't get like big title runs. Like that's why I'm not gonna say like Jeff Hardy and shit like that. Um, I'm going to say that when I was watching the WWE, guys that I thought could be big and they did not give those guys a fair shot, I'm going to say three guys. And I hope I'm not stepping on your toes by doing that. Um, but I'm going to say Shelton Benjamin. I'm going to
Yeah.
say Kofi Kingston. And I'm going
Hmm.
to say MVP.
Yeah. I would. I don't know about MVP. I was never too impressed with him, but I
He got like a
definitely.
United States. He got like a U.S. champion run. That's all he really got. I always liked him though.
Yeah. That was yeah, because the guy I'm thinking of that we'll get to.
Mhm.
I want to go over yours real quick. The guy I'm thinking of had those mid card title runs, like a lot of them actually.
Mhm.
But those to me, again, like for me, they never really made those very prestigious, in
Mhm.
my opinion. Like it was just kind of extra. It always just seemed to me like extra bling and to make the mid card matches seem like they mattered.
Mhm.
Um, but it was like you need to actually, for me it was just like I felt like you need to actually make the storylines matter, because if you look at like the UFC, all the fucking fights, not all the fights, but a lot of the fights, like there's really exciting non-title fights, and it's because it's like they still make it feel like it matters because of the way they promote the fights, and they could have done a better job with that. They didn't need those like intercontinental and US championships. I'll
Mhm.
give it to the tag team championships. That made sense because that was like, okay, well, you tag teaming. There's no point in having tag teams if you don't have
Right,
championships
you have
for
to
them.
have a
So I got,
championship for it.
yeah, I understood that. I was never too impressed with MVP. Like I thought he was a pretty good, like sort of like cowardly heel, where it
Mhm.
was like he was a good like thorn in the side of like the Undertaker and Kane at certain points on
Mhm.
SmackDown.
Mhm.
Like, but other than that, I was never insanely impressed with him.
Mhm.
But I definitely like Shelton Benjamin. Like you're
Sheldon
in the
Benjamin.
club with Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was freaking. He was Brock Lesnar's roommate in college. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, I did know that. Yeah, no, and Sheldon Benjamin is an absolute athlete, and that's why I had MVP last because I was
Yeah.
like, I was kind of just like, kind of MVP. I wish they had because the thing with MVP is that I wish they had done more with him. They relegated him a lot to just having feuds. If not with like those guys that you mentioned, if not with them, with like Matt Hardy, and I never really liked that for him.
Yeah.
But Shelton Benjamin and Kofi Kingston, I always thought like these guys could be doing so much more. And I know that
Yeah.
now. I know that now they gave Kofi Kingston a push where I think he had like a title run. And I'm happy for
They did
him.
the.
Huh?
They Rey Mysterio'd him though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy for him because it felt like it was a long time coming. The guy has insane charisma, insane athleticism. But obviously, then they retconned him. They Red Mysterio him. They were like, not anymore.
Well, Brock Lesnar took the title away from him and beat him in I think like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like, what the
So
hell are
that's
you
pretty
doing? But you
whack.
could have had an
Yeah.
awesome match between those
Yeah.
two. What the fuck is?
And that's really
What's going
whack,
on?
especially when like Brock doesn't have the dedication, and that's when stuff like that pisses me off. Like whenever I hear that, I'm like, Coffee's somebody who's been, you know, giving his life to this industry. He's been doing this forever. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I know about him, and I stopped watching like in 2012, 2013. You know,
Yeah.
so that's really like whack when they do shit like that. And I'm not gonna speak on like any more guys that I know have gotten like runs since then. But what I do want to is just hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and just to tie up that thread, I agree. Like Brock Lesnar, it's like, the guy's a part-timer.
Yeah.
I'm not diminishing. Brock's like one of my favorite WWE guys. Like I think they needed Brock. They
Mhm.
really needed Brock after The Undertaker went away. They were in need of a replacement
Mhm.
for The Undertaker as like the alpha predator of the WWE. They needed another one. And
Mhm.
Brock is that, like you could have done it. They could have done it with Roman Reigns, but what made Brock different was just the fact that he had been a UFC champion. So he just brought this presence where it was like, this guy could kick ass in real life. And that came through in his character,
Mhm.
But I agree. That was super disrespectful to just,
Yes.
it's like, look, take the championship away from him. Like every champion is going to lose his title, but don't not 20 seconds. They could have put on an amazing
They could
match.
have.
And I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know the behind the scenes details, but like Kofi's put on some great matches and Brock Lesnar has put on some amazing matches.
Mhm.
I mean, since he's been back in WWE. I mean,
Mhm.
like him versus Seth Rollins versus John Cena, they had a triple threat match years back, and
Mhm.
that was that was an incredible match.
Mhm.
I mean, that was like one of the greatest matches of the of the era.
Mhm.
And then I agree with Shelton Benjamin. For
Who do you
me,
got?
for me, I always thought they really missed out with Wade Barrett, the
Mm.
British guy.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Okay.
he almost, it's interesting with him because he almost did, like they were pushing him to become a world champion when he was in Nexus.
Yeah.
And he had a couple of he had like two different, I
Yeah,
think,
I
occasions.
didn't get to
Go
Wade
ahead.
Barrett. Like Wade Barrett, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like Wade Barrett,
There you go.
I knew him at NXT because that's around the time that I stopped watching when he was at NXT. So I got to see him
Yeah.
wrestling at NXT, but I didn't get to see him like make the move post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always really liked his character. I always felt that he could have become a sort of Triple H type figure, like that type of heel,
Mhm.
and he was like a career heel. I think at one point in his career, he was a tweener, where the audience rooted for him, but he was still a heel. But he was like a career heel. He could have been, again, like a Triple H type heel. Like he always had that sort of energy and presence.
He has the face. He has a big nose like Triple H.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, his nose has been broken like 10 times, I
Yeah.
think, from his bare knuckle boxing days. But he so he was supposed to, apparently back in 2010 when he had the Nexus, he was supposed to be they were positioning him to become a world champion, and John Cena buried him. Like John Cena at SummerSlam, they were gonna win. It was like Team WWE versus Team Nexus, and then they were gonna go over. Nexus was gonna go over. They were gonna win, and then Vince was like, actually, Cena's team is gonna win. And they were like, he was like, SummerSlam should have a happy ending.
Vince,
da.
Vince had such poor management of that fucking company, man. Like, I mean, yeah,
He's so out of touch,
he
man.
is. He's too old. Not to be ageist,
Yeah.
but I don't think he understands what makes that company like tick anymore.
No, he doesn't, because I think he's just stuck in sort of that Hogan era where he's just still thinking that way of like, it's different nowadays. It's not like how it used to be. People don't care. People don't. It's not how it used to be where it's like, Hogan comes out and he's Team America and he faces the Iron Sheik, who's, the Middle Eastern guy, and everybody's rooting for the American. It's not like that anymore. Times have changed. Like people are looking for, interesting characters. They want to see, yeah, they don't want to see the Superman story anymore, where it's like, you know, Superman always is triumphant in the end, and da da da. You know, it's like, and so yeah, that like really like halted the momentum of Nexus, because they were like on a roll that summer. They were like huge. I remember that was when I was watching quite a bit, and they had a huge presence, but their momentum got like really halted after that happened. And then I think like a year and a half later, he was supposed to, I believe, I want to say he was supposed to win Money in the Bank at the next WrestleMania, but then he dislocated his elbow, and it was because they had no other plans. They didn't even have a plan B. They just scrapped the Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania completely. And I believe that was like WrestleMania. I want to say it was like WrestleMania 28 or something. And then when he returned, there was this no fanfare. They didn't give him a big return or anything. It was like 1 week. I remember on SmackDown, they were just like, "All right, up next, Wade Barrett returns." And it was just like,
that's pretty
all
fun.
right.
Yeah.
And he faced a jobber, and it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
But I listened to an interview with him, and he talks about all this, and then he said, I remember he said like he when his contract was over, he went to them and he was just like, when his contract was about to be over, he had like a month left, and he went to them and he said basically, "Oh, this is just killing me. Like, I gotta go." And he left. And I think he's doing movies or something.
Well, good for him.
He's still
they didn't appreciate
multi-millionaire.
him. Yeah, they didn't appreciate him.
Yeah,
but I think
he could have been a Triple H character. He really could have. Yeah. I think.
But I think that was a great topic. That was actually really fun, like thinking about that shit, reminiscing on all these old memories of small wrestlers that I liked that didn't get a fair shot. That was cool.
Yeah, my title for this segment is, in my head at least, is the missed opportunities of WWE, or how Vince McMahon is seriously out of touch.
I read that will be the title for this section.
Yeah. But anyway, you had a topic, I believe.
This is movie news that I want to go into before we go into the film. And obviously before we go into the film, we can recap and talk about anything else you want to. But I have an update about release schedules. Because as you know, the Writers Guild has been on strike. So this is like a big movie news stuff. Writers Guild has been on strike. Nothing's being written as union. So no union shows are being made. Basically, no show that would be like on Hulu or Disney, none of that's being made right now. They're on strike. And I believe that the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, I believe that they have also joined the Writers Guild, and they're also on strike. Basically, movies are not being made right now. And people are not getting paid, people are out of work. And the reason that this is happening is because writers want respect. Because the movie industry has been moving in such a way where, for some reason, writers started getting the bad end of things, even though movies would not be getting made without people who fucking write them, and without human beings to add stories and human stories into fucking movies and shows. So because of that, Disney has pushed back the release schedule for movies. Specifically, listen to this. They have pushed back Deadpool 3 from coming out next year to coming out on May 24th, I think it was, or something like that. And let me see, and they are making, these are the only movies that I really want to talk about. Basically, Disney pushed everything back a year. And like the Avatar movies are going to come out like one in 25, one in 29, and one in 31 or something like that. So they made everybody have like an existential crisis, because all of these movies got pushed back. Like the Avengers movie got pushed back. I might be wrong about the Deadpool movie though. I think they moved it up. And I think it was releasing like end of the year next year, and they moved it up to May of next year. But what's interesting to me is how narrow the distance between nostalgia baiting is getting, because they also announced that a live-action Moana movie is getting made, and that live-action Moana movie is coming out in 2025.
That's weird.
isn't it?
It's like they're already that to me that's still new. Moana
It came out in
didn't that come out
2016.
like? Oh, really? It's been
Yeah.
that long?
It,
Wow.
it was weird when I saw it. I was like, oh, I guess it's been a little bit long. So basically, they're putting another movie out, not even 10 years after the original movie released. But it's like, does anybody really want to see that fucking thing in live action? Nobody even has like fond recollections. That came out like I haven't seen that. I haven't even gotten around to seeing that. So
Yeah, it's almost like if it'll be a big deal for you if you saw it when you were 5 and then you're 15 when the new one comes out, because that's like 10 years when you're 15 is 2/3 of your life.
I guess that's what they're
But
banking on. I guess so, man.
but now us as bitter adults, 10 years is like I mean, yeah, it's still a long time, but
but to me, it's
it
just
doesn't feel that long ago. 2016, it doesn't feel that long
But
ago.
to me, it's just funny, man, that it's like, at one point they were like remaking like, oh, the Dalmatians, the Lion King,
Yeah.
even the Little Mermaid that came out like in 1995. So it's like, oh, they're making things that are like, oh, this movie's 30 years old, like, oh, these are all old things. But it's like, no, you're remaking a movie that came out like from today. It came out 8 years ago. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Soon.
Is The Rock gonna be in the live action one too, or are you gonna cast somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for the writers, man, going on strike. I mean, fuck, dude. And honestly, for us being writers,
exactly.
this could be a good not to sound selfish or anything, but this could be a good for all of us. Any writers listening, any writers out there, this could be a good time, because, dude, people are just fucking fed up with these massive corporations just raking in all the fucking profits, and it's just like, you know what? It's like, what if we fucking stop? Now what?
Right.
Now what are you gonna do?
Right.
Oh, now you need us back.
And like you said, like,
we're just tired of it, man. They're so fucking greedy. They're making more money than ever, just pumping out endless product off of our hard work.
Right. But like you said, like that's
about time. I think every industry needs to fucking do this.
That's the main thing.
It's getting ridiculous.
These people are making a sacrifice, for the future, for the people who are coming behind them. Because it's true what you're saying. It's like, these movies don't get made without these folks. The people writing these fucking movies, like, they don't get made. Yet, every movie that gets made, every show that gets made, it's like, for some reason, it has become a thing where they're just completely like owned by whatever studio produces them, and then everybody who's worked in them just gets fucked. Because something happened. Because there used to be something before when movies were releasing on theaters, and when movies were releasing on TV, there were two things that were in place to help these people that made them make money long term. Movies that were released on theaters, people had fucking royalties were divided amongst creative staffs. Like, oh, this person, obviously it was like about, you had like a good contract. So if you made your first movie, that probably wasn't the case. But then that's how people like Christopher Nolan, end up making Inception and making like $500 million off of the movie, because he has like stake in the movie, because it's like, okay, now I have a contract, and my contract says that, I have to get a certain percentage of revenue, And with TV shows, people had syndication, where like all these stars, all the people that worked in the show, everybody has royalties, everybody has syndication money. So these shows, when they run on TV, people get paid, But now it's not like that anymore. Now an actor can be in a show, and it just goes straight to HBO Max or whatever, and they don't get anything anymore, which is very strange.
Yeah.
Like, that has shifted. So it has put people in a position, writers and all these creative people, in a position where you just have to keep going from one thing to the next, because the last thing that you did is not going to feed you after it's over, where before it used to be that way. So it's very strange, and I think they're just trying to fight for that. I think they're just trying to fight to find an equivalent to that on streaming, because all these fucking streaming giants, Netflix and all this Hulu and all this shit, they've been getting away with like a murder because they changed the
Yeah.
rules, and all the creative folks allowed them to change the rules, and now 15 years or whatever later, it's like, okay, we have to do something because we're like starving, and somehow things keep getting made, and only the studios and fucking the Netflix, like only the fucking companies, only the big billion-dollar companies are profiting, and nobody else is profiting, even though we're the people creating the things. So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens with that.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, it's like I said on a past episode, which I think it was before we had a professional setup and everything. So I think it's worth repeating. Like, you know, the thing with America, as far as I can tell, right, is the way sort of a capitalist system is supposed to work is it's like a hockey game, right, and the government, between the corporations on one side and the consumer slash employees on the other side, right?
Mhm.
And then the government is the referee. And it's just gotten to a point where it's like, look, we want to keep playing the game, right? It's not the game, because there's people out there that say like, oh, these liberal fascists hate capitalism. It's like, no. Going back to the hockey analogy, we love the game. Like, we love the game of hockey. Hockey, great. Capitalism, great. But the referee has fucking stepped out. And now Team Corporation has been kicking us in the balls, jabbing us in the eye, and, walking up and hurling the fucking puck into our net without using the sticks and doing all kinds of illegal shit. And the referee's doing not even illegal shit, just in a lot of cases, illegal shit, but a lot of times just underhanded shit and cheating us and a baseball analogy, putting lead in their fucking baseball bats and shit like that. And the referee has gone on sabbatical.
Right.
And it's like, well, fuck, we're not playing this anymore until the referee comes back and does his fucking job.
Yeah.
Capitalism's great, right? It's not the government's job to come in and save the other team. It's not the referee's job to come in and, award points to team consumer, team employee, right? But it is the ref's job to come in and make sure the game is being played correctly, right? So those are my thoughts on it as a not completely non-economist mid-20s layman who has entered only been in the workforce for a couple of years now. But that's from what I can tell, that's kind of what's going on. And what I will say too is, listen, corporations are getting richer than ever, but they've also made it so that with all the advances in technology and the internet and everything, it's also easier than ever for creatives to do more without their help, right? For example, I mentioned it, I think it was last week on the podcast, right? Or a couple weeks ago. I work with an indie studio. We're working on an animated series right now without help, right? And we're going to pitch it to the giants. We're going to bring it to the streaming giants. But, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to do that. Independent animated television with, 10, 15 animators in 15 different countries. No way. But now we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks to the big corporations.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But not thanks to the big corporations, thanks to the people, the workers who put in the work and the innovation, and who unfortunately probably, in a lot of cases didn't get paid fairly or treated fairly.
Right.
And if anyone out there doesn't believe me on that last part, I posted this on our channel, but I think this is worth repeating if I can find it here. Where is it? Sorry, guys.
I think I know
one
what you're looking
second.
for.
Yeah, the Toy Story thing.
Yeah.
Let me go back. Let me find it real quick. Go to my channel.
But while you do
making
that,
noises so people
no while you do
noises
that,
so people know that their podcast didn't go out.
No, while you do that, like I
out.
just want to say, because we'll move away from this topic after this, but I just wanted to say, that I'm thankful that's happening, and I pay my respect to those folks that are making those sacrifices because it needs to happen. I kept asking myself because I knew about this kind of stuff even before the strike happened. I just kept asking myself, it's like how long is this gonna go on for? And seemingly, maybe not for too much longer, but who knows? Maybe the companies will just be like, no, we're not gonna do anything about this. We're gonna keep you guys down. So we'll see what happens, but we can only hope for the best. But did you find what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So listen to this. This is why I said that last sentence that I said, which was, it's because of the innovation. We're able to enjoy all these luxuries partially because of the innovation that working people put in. And they probably got, in a lot of cases, got the shaft.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
case in
right.
point.
That's right. I know where you're going.
Yeah.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
Case in point. This is from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Galen's discussing film on Twitter. Galen Sussman, hope I pronounced that right, was the individual who saved Toy Story 2 by having a copy of the film at home after someone accidentally ran a command that deleted 90% of the film from Pixar's files. Today, he has been laid off from Pixar.
Right. That's right.
I saw this 8 days ago, and I don't know when that news actually broke. I just saw it on Reddit. So
yeah, that's right.
Who knows how old that is, but unbelievable.
No, that's unbelievable. No, you're absolutely right.
So yeah, about time we hopefully this leads to some change for a little while before we, before the people eventually have to rise up again. Yeah. It's an endless cycle.
It is an endless cycle. But we thank those folks for their service. And that being said, Mr. Jake, do you have anything else you would like to go into, or if not, we can go into our recaps.
No, we can go into the recaps.
Okay, I'm going to keep mine brief because mine deals with the same stuff that it has been dealing with for the past 3 weeks. And it is...
More future?
It deals with the future.
Dude, I had a thought last night. I was like, it was like one of those late night thoughts. Like I laid down and I was like, I wonder if Edward's going to talk about future again on tomorrow's episode.
I'm talking about future. I am talking about future because
go for it.
It's endless. It's endless. I mean, dude, I hope that to the people listening to this, I've made a noble sacrifice because I hope so. I hope I didn't waste my time because I listened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I listened over the past 3 weeks. I listened to 16 albums. I listened to 16 future albums. 16.
Oh.
So,
oh my God, dude.
I hope
we'll never be able to listen to that guy again.
I hope that to the people listening to this is a noble sacrifice. And that this saves you time. I hope that nobody is inspired to do this just because I did it. That should not be the message. That should not be the message that comes out of this. Nobody should be inspired to do that. Just don't do it. The guy only has 2 good albums. He doesn't have more than 2. He's made more than 16 albums. That's only the ones I listened to. The guy has like 20-something albums. And only 2 of them are good. Only 2 of them are any good or worth listening to. And that's Monster and DS2. That's it. Nothing else. Yeah. And then he made 1 good collaborative album, the one with Drake. That's it. Nothing else. No other future album is good. No other one. Just Monster, DS2, and What a Time to Be Alive. No other one. Doesn't matter what the name of it is. Doesn't matter what your friend says. Doesn't matter what it says anywhere. Doesn't matter what your dad or your mom says. Doesn't matter what Pitchfork says.
Or your grandma.
Doesn't matter what your grandma says. Doesn't matter what you said to yourself yesterday. The man only has
Doesn't matter what DJ Academic
doesn't
says.
matter what the academic says either. The man only has 3 good albums, nothing more, and maybe less, but not more. High of Life
Uh,
is a big dump, and it sucks. There's nothing good in that album except for the songs Life is Good with Drake. And that's it. That's it. That's the only one. I'm looking at the album, I'm like, wait, there's nothing here. There's like starred songs, Too Comfortable, Trillionaire with Young Boy, Solitaires with Travis Scott, all horrendous songs. High Tech Tech is catchy, but it sucks. Solitaire is like the most horrendous. It's like horrendous. It's just the average Travis Scott feature.
that is a terrible song.
Travis Scott is creatively bankrupt because he just sounds the same in every song.
The robot, dude. He. I would believe it if he said that. Oh, if he was like, oh, I just do AI covers for my own music.
No,
I'd
dude,
be like, yeah,
dude.
of course you do.
Pluto X Baby Pluto sucks. I'm not even gonna talk about it. I listened to a little bit. I couldn't get through that fucking piece of shit. And then I listened to I Never Like To, which was the last one. It's the one he released this year. No, last year actually. And is the last one that I was gonna listen to by this man. And it's his best album since, let me see, since What a Time to Be Alive. So since 2015, everything he released was absolute garbage, 4 out of 10. It's like absolute just garbage, unlistenable, not worth listening to. He released I Never Like To, and that's the best one since What a Time to Be Alive. And I Never Like To is a bad album. It's not a good album. It's a bad album. It's still a 4 out of 10. It's a bad album, but it's the best bad one.
The cover the cover is a clue for what you're about to hear.
Yeah. The cover tells you how he made this album. He made this album in his sleep, and this album is gonna put you to sleep or is gonna put you in a coma. But let me see. The first song, 7:12 p.m. It's okay. I'm That Brother. The second song is also okay. The song with Kanye sucks. The song with the fourth song sucks. Puffing on Sooties is okay. And Wait for You and Love You Better are okay. And those 3 songs are similar because they're all just kind of like R&B, like very low, like slow down songs. And those are the 3.
Yeah, Puffin' on Zooties is pretty good.
The Puffin' on Zooties is pretty good. And those are the only 3 good songs in the album. The only 3 good songs. The only 3 good songs. The only 3 good songs in the album are those 3 songs. No other song is good.
Wait, what were they? How many good songs were there?
The only 3 good songs, and they sound like each other because they're all just like kind of R&B like songs. The only 3 good songs, and nothing else.
Oh my god!
And with that, I ended my journey into the future, and the future looks grim. But the past looks good because I also listened to the Fugees, and the Fugees is a classic band, and or rather a hip hop group, and it consists of let me see, where is it at? It consists of Wyclef Jean and here it is, Fugees. I'm forgetting this lady's name. I could listen to the album The Score by the Fugees. Lauryn Hill. It's Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, and I think this guy's name is like Traff, the other guy. This album's pretty good. It's a classic album. Killing Me Softly with his song, obviously a great song. Ready or Not, Ready or Not, Here I Come, that song. Great album, great songs. The song's Ready or Not, the song Sell It, which is number 4. The song, The Beast, number 5. Fuji La, Killing Me Softly, No Woman, No Cry, The Mask, Cowboys, like great songs, great album. I had a great time listening to this. First Fuji album I ever listened to, and I had a really good time, and I thought it was a great album. And today, just coincidentally, I also listened to an older album, an album called El Madrileño by C. Tanaga, which is a Spanish, like urban pop, hip hop album. with a combination of folk and classic Spanish music, and that album is tremendous. I know I spoke about this guy before, but I can't give that guy enough praise. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous. Like this is like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 album. Came out in 2021. If anybody likes, like reggaeton, or even, like Hispanic music, Bad Bunny type of music, this guy is way better. He only has one album, but he's way better and he's fantastic. I cannot praise this guy enough.
Is it better than Bad Bunny?
This album's better than every single Bad Bunny album, but Bad Bunny's also
wow.
great. But Bad Bunny's also great. I can't take down my man Bad Bunny. But this is the best. This album's the best. I don't think Bad Bunny has an album of the quality that this guy has. But fantastic music. But that's all I got music wise. What do you have, sir, for the recap?
Yeah, man. So for this week, so I watched, I believe, only one movie. No, I watched a couple movies. This past weekend, I watched. I was like up really late one night, and I watched a classic 1950s giant monster movie that I really liked as a kid, called The Giant Behemoth. And it's like one of those classic big dinosaur monster on the loose kind of movies from the 50s. Really goes into like the those nuclear fears that was putting the whole country into a panic. Those were big fears in the 50s, and that's what all the sort of all the monster and horror and sci-fi stuff, most of it anyway, reflected. The best and most famous example being Godzilla, which was in Japan. But the Giant Behemoth, it's a good, like, it's a solid like B movie, B monster movie. It was Willis O'Brien's, I think, one of his last films. Not his very last film, but one of his last films before he passed away. Willis O'Brien, of course, for anyone listening who doesn't know, he was the man who brought the original King Kong to life, as well as, even before that, made the 1925 dinosaur film The Lost World. I believe he invented stop motion animation, if I'm not mistaken. So he was a pioneer, by all definitions of the word. I liked The Giant Behemoth when I was a kid. I really enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was like great when I was a kid, because what I love about a big reason I gravitate toward horror and thriller stories, especially in my writing. Like, I'll watch any kind of movie, but the reason I really gravitate toward like horror, thriller, crime stuff is because I love suspense. Like, suspense is my first love when it comes to storytelling. It comes in all forms, and every story has a form of suspense. But it's like horror movies and thrillers and crime films in a lot of cases, and same goes for television. These are the genres that really ratchet up the suspense and become an exercise in suspense a lot of times. And I loved the suspense and the sense of dread that like builds up throughout the film. You only get glimpses of the monster until its big attack, at the, I want to say, the end of the second act. And then in the third act, they kind of got to figure out how to defeat it. Kind of looks like the Loch Ness Monster a little bit, but it has, it's able to walk too. It's able to come on land, obviously. So it can fuck up the city. But yeah, it's sort of like a knockoff, and it was the same director too. It's sort of like a knockoff, a lesser version of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which that was sort of the inspiration for Godzilla, and that was Ray Harryhausen's first big film where he was like the sole animator, stop motion animator on it. Funny enough, when I was a kid, I actually preferred The Giant Behemoth to The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms because, yes, in Beast, the stop motion animation was far superior, and it was, I would say of like probably a higher quality in terms of maybe some of the storytelling and everything. When I was a kid, I was actually disappointed by how much screen time the monster got, because I was like, it's not as scary. Like, they showed their hand too soon. Like, oh, that's lame. They showed their hand too quickly. They showed it too much. When I was a kid, I was really a fan of that Jaws style of storytelling where you don't show the monster until later and you just get little glimpses. So it's interesting. But anyway, that was a good time. That was a walk down memory lane for me. And then I actually watched a movie called Last Night in Soho.
That's that Edgar Wright movie, right?
Yep, Edgar Wright. That was a good movie, man. Anya Taylor-Joy, and then Thomasin McKenzie, who was in Jojo Rabbit. She was the little girl in Jojo Rabbit. They co-star in this movie. This is basically a horror thriller kind of film. It's primarily a thriller mystery film, but it has some horror elements in it. It definitely leans horror. It's pretty, it's horror adjacent for sure. What I liked about the film, the story was pretty solid, if a little predictable. There were maybe one or two twists, I want to say, that were kind of like, oh shit, I didn't really see that coming. But for the most part, it was very by the numbers, pretty predictable for me, where I kind of saw everything coming. Especially the big reveal at the end. I was like, well, fuck, I saw that coming a mile away. I predicted that the first, 10 minutes of the movie. But I still liked the story. I thought it was pretty inspired. I thought it was a pretty good story, solid, thriller, mystery flick. There was enough mystery there where it was still, even though I could see the main plot beats coming, there were elements and parts, just pieces of the lore that I found mysterious enough that kept me interested. The performances were really great by both of the female co-stars. They were awesome. Everyone killed it. And then I would say, just basically probably the biggest bump in this movie for me was stylistically. So I think, Edgar Wright is a good director, but we all know his style. His style is that really in your face, kind of, we've all, a lot of us have seen Baby Driver. Some of you may have seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Very over the top, in your face.
Yeah, very obvious. A lot of people have called it style over substance a little bit.
Yeah. And the problem I had with that in this movie was I really think he should have reined that in. I think he should have truncated that in this film, but he doesn't. There's moments in this movie where it's almost like I can hear him going, "Hey, it's me, Edgar Wright. Remember, I directed this. It's in your face, in your face, in your face." And there's over the top moment. Excuse me. There's over the top moments where it's this isn't. I'm not scared right now. It's this is just so explosive and stylistic that you're sacrificing the scares, and there's certain sequences that are very CG heavy, and once you start introducing CG into a horror movie, you're really heading down a slippery slope. And fast. A very slippery slope. So, all in all, 3 stars out of 5. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything to write home about.
Yeah.
And then that's it for movies. On the TV side of things, I've been rewatching The Boys. Doing a rewatch of The Boys in anticipation of the 4th season, which I don't think has been given an official release date. I could be wrong on that. A lot can change in the 12 hours since I've checked, or the 24 hours, however long it's been.
Right.
But in anticipation of the 4th season, I'm doing a rewatch of The Boys. Fucking amazing show. It's in my top 5 shows of all time, and I only recently, a year ago, discovered it. Or maybe even less, 9 months ago. Fucking awesome, man. I love that show. And then Apple TV released the 2nd season of Prehistoric Planet, their dinosaur series.
I've been meaning to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, check it out, man. It's and I think it may. I don't know when they released it. I think it's been out for a little while now, maybe a few weeks or a month or so. But I got around to checking that out this week. Better than the first season. The first season was pretty good. The only thing that I was a little disappointed with the first season is it didn't show a lot of, and call me childish on this, but it didn't show a lot of like dinosaurs hunting. Like you didn't even get to see T-Rex hunt in the first season. I was like, what the hell, man? You show me T-Rex and you're not going to show me T-Rex hunting?
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts, man. What gives? So they get into more predator prey stuff in this season, which, hey, look, that's a huge part of nature shows. Come on. You can't knock me for that. But this season's really solid. You have, they got an episode where they explore dinosaurs in badlands, in deserts, those types of biomes. And then you have a episode where they deal with swamplands. You have a whole episode dedicated to prehistoric oceans. So they give us some stuff with really scary looking prehistoric fish and mosasaur, which was a lot of people may recognize from Jurassic World. That was that big sea monster thing that pops out and eats the shark in Jurassic World.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
In that SeaWorld type exhibit. That's a mosasaur, which was actually a type of prehistoric lizard, marine lizard, which is interesting. A lot of people might think it's some sort of weird prehistoric creature or maybe even a dinosaur. It's not. It was a prehistoric relative of snakes and very closely related to lizards. So interesting. But anyway, really solid. Check out Prehistoric Planet. Highly recommend it. Good stuff. And that's what I got for the recap.
Well, sir, I think it's time for us to get padding. Meaning Paddington. So we watched Paddington.
Yeah,
I know that didn't go as planned, did it?
It's okay, Edward. It happened.
We watched Paddington, directed by Paul King, 2014 film about a nice, lovely bear. It says the tag for it says, "Please look after this bear. Thank you." And that's like this little tag that he has around his neck when he's shipped off to London. Jake, what did you make? What did you think of Paddington?
Well, Edward, you've known me a long time by now, and you know that I am, a man of, I'm a red-blooded male who likes to pump iron in the gym, and I like to do Muay Thai kickboxing and some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I like to smoke cigars and drink a little whiskey. I'm an all-around guy. With that being said, protect that bear at all costs, man. Protect that bear at all costs. Yeah. Dude, that's all I could think of when I was watching this movie. When that fucking lady goes, when Nicole Kidman, who killed it in this movie.
She was great.
She was awesome.
Yeah, she was awesome.
When she went to stuff that bear, I was like, I'm Team Paddington, man.
Yeah.
I liked it, man. It was nice. I appreciate you picking this movie too, because I think I've become a little bit in the past couple years. I've become a little bit narrow with my movie watching, where I'm just Tarantino talks about the two types of moviegoers, right? There's people that love movies, and then there's people that love the movies that they love, right? And I've become a little more, I've become a little more of the latter in the past couple years. I will say during college, just being around film all the time and having a ton of free time and just being inundated with film and creativity and storytelling all the time, I was really open to all kinds of films. You and I were watching everything, man. We were watching comedies, dramas, action, family, animated films. We were just watching all sorts of shit, right? in our classes too. Not all of our classes. That's not all we did in film school was watch movies. We had a couple classes where we'd watch movies though, and or in some writing classes we'd watch clips from movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that in the past couple of years, I've become a little bit narrow with my movie watching, where and that happens, man. You work full time and you just want to watch what you want to watch, man. And
I don't even watch movies anymore.
Yeah, right. You just listen to Future.
Yeah. Ugh.
Must have been torture. But anyway, but yeah, so like the past couple of years, I'm someone who I love horror, right? I love thrillers, I like crime films, I like action movies where the guns are firing and the muscles are pumping and the sweat is shining,
Yeah.
like people are kicking each other in the face and punching each other in the gut.
Yeah.
That's that shit I like, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you picking Paddington for this week, man, because it was good to, sit down and just watch, this family friendly film and just be lighthearted for once, man. I consume a lot of dark shit, whether it's the TV show The Boys, whether it's Barry or Mr. Robot, whether it's the movies I watch, And every time I do a recap, I'm like, I watched this horror movie and this thriller.
Yeah.
I watch true crime stuff, and it's like, you know what, man? Sometimes you got to sit down and watch something lighthearted, and I enjoyed doing that.
Well, and that definitely was my intention. Just because of the nature of what I do, and just because of the nature of what you consume a lot of, and just because of the world, because I was like, I liked that, although I didn't necessarily love, Bill and Ted, I liked kind of like the idea with that movie, because it was just like, okay, this is a positive film,
Yeah.
And I've always really liked watching. I've always loved family movies, and I've always loved just like feel good movies. Always loved them. Always loved them. That's when I was a kid. I loved like Spirit. That Spirit the Stallion movie. Because it was just a feel good movie. Always loved movies like that. They always made me feel the best, And I've always loved a movie that just makes you feel like positive and like, the world is like worth fighting for, So I wanted to complement Bill and Ted. I was like, okay, I want to find something to complement this film as, just to have this like, brother episodes or sibling episodes of just like back to back. We're just going to watch movies that are going to make us feel good, and it's going to be a nice time.
Yeah.
And I arrived at Paddington, and Paddington was a movie that I've been meaning to see since it came out. Because Paddington, when it came out, it got such positive reception. People loved this movie. And people adore Paddington too. So I was like, I think it's time, I think it's Paddington time. And I'm really glad, man, because this is truly just like a comfortable, at some points laugh out loud, just put a smile on your face, doesn't ask you for too much, hour and a half, no filler, just thriller, just family movie that is wholesome and that has a cute bear. And it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. What else did you love about the movie? Give us your positives, and then we can maybe, give it some take
it down a few pegs. Yeah. Pat it down.
The positives and the negatives.
I love the opening of the movie for one. I really loved like that black and white like footage of being like, oh, I'm just discovering this new species of bear, and they're like really smart, Like I loved that introduction. I love that little like introduction.
It set up the world where it was believable that people didn't care that this bear was just running around. It was a good way to set up the logic of the world.
Yeah, and I thought it was perfect. I was like, this is great. I liked seeing him with like his aunt and his uncle in the jungle, and I thought that was great. I wasn't like the biggest fan of like the earthquake that brought everything down, but I knew that it was necessary, because like I would have to get this bear out of here, and it's kind of good to get us to feel for him even more when we know that he's coming from like this big tragedy that happened to him. I mean, ultimately, this is a book adaptation too. But I thought it worked, but I wasn't the biggest fan of that happening. And I really loved Sally Hawkins' character. Like the mom that brings him in. He's like, yeah, we'll take you in, because I loved how that went with the dad, because the dad's just walking and he's just like, oh, the kids are just like, Dad, there's a bear, and the dad's just like, he's probably asking for money or something. He's like, don't look at him, which I
Yeah, because
thought,
I sort of at that part too, like at that part too, I was just kind of like, okay, so this is the part where the dad's gonna be like, what the hell is that? It's a
yeah,
bear. But it's
yeah,
like, oh shit, they set it up to where
yeah.
people already know these things
So
exist.
I loved that, because it plays with you as an audience member. He just goes like, "Don't look at the bear. He's probably going to try to sell us something." Um, and then Sally Hawkins comes back, and I thought that was great. Um, and I knew that it was going to be one of those films with like, oh, the dad's going to warm up to the bear, and the family's going to slowly warm up to the bear, and they're going to love him, and it's going to be great. And I had a fun time with it, man. I loved that. I really loved Nicole Kidman's character. I thought her character was great. Um, I love Paddington, and I loved his little hat and his little coat. When he got the coat, I was like, oh, there's a coat. I loved the music in the film. I really loved that music, like this, like very just like bongo heavy, like kind of Caribbean like music, because he comes from Peru, from the darkest Peru, he said. So I loved that. There's this kind of like very like what's the best way to put it? Kind of like summery music. And
Yeah.
I thought it contrasted well with like London. And I loved those guys that would just suddenly show up playing the music like in on the film. It would become like diegetic, I guess, but obviously it wasn't. Um, and what else? And I really like that scene where they sneak in him and the dad into to get like those files. I really liked like that whole sequence.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, and I loved
Yeah, that was good.
I loved the ending of the film too. I loved how they reincorporated the bears, not the bears, the birds, and that Nicole Kidman was like,
Yep.
"Oh, you dumb bear! You thought you were gonna get away with like tricking me or whatever," and then Miss Bird comes up and like she falls down. I thought that was great, and I thought that was very clever. And I liked her character drinking with that guy and like challenging him to like just like this drinking competition. Um,
Yeah.
that's what I love of the film. What about you?
Well, if we're talking about individual scenes real quick, I'm going to throw one in. The freaking scene. I don't remember if it was in an elevator or a phone booth or what, but it was when the dad and Paddington are in they're like in an elevator, I want to say.
They're
Let's
in an
just say
elevator.
that.
Yeah.
And the dad accuses him of lying, and
Yeah.
he like mean mugs
Yeah,
him.
he's like these really mean little eyes. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really cute, man. It reminded me. It was like a wholesome kind of moment where it reminded me of like my sister's little puppy Louis. He's a
Mhm.
little for him obviously, but
Yeah.
people listening, he's a little Chihuahua Yorkie mix, or a Chorky, as you might call him. And he has bratty little moments, of course, and it's cute, man. It's funny, and I liked that Paddington's like so, he's so just wholesome and good, that just being accused of lying is like, oh, what, it's like blasphemy.
Yeah,
It's like, I would
yeah.
never lie.
Yeah.
That's what I got from that moment.
Yeah, no, that was a great little moment.
Yeah, that was adorable. But yeah, my positives, man, just to run through them.
Mhm.
I right off the bat, having the bear family in the forest, and then having that tragedy, occur, obviously. It's really sad. You immediately sympathize and empathize with the character,
Mhm.
and then Paddington trying to find a new home and a place to belong. That's something we can all, relate to at some point, is just trying to find belonging, um, and I thought it was really great how they executed that. I loved, Paddington himself, just
Mhm.
visually. I thought they did a really great job with him.
Mhm.
His design and everything. He was super, cute, but also had a good personality. They didn't make him too plushy or
Mhm.
anything like that. He also had sort of a sort of there was like an intelligence to him that you could see there. Just that animation was really, that design and animation was really excellent, I thought. Nicole Kidman's villain was great. Loved to hate her. Very Cruella de Vil inspired, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With her goal.
Yeah.
But more definitely scarier than Cruella de Vil because she had some ninja capabilities.
She did. She was strong.
So that surprised me when they made her physically imposing. I was like, oh shit, this is she's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
And then I liked, I thought they did a really good execution of the whole idea of where you have this protagonist, this main character who is a static character. He doesn't change. He is. He ends the film the same way he began, as this hopeful person. Someone hopeful.
He was a real he was a Bill and Ted for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, a very hopeful character, positive, glass half full, and the world. The story continuously challenges this philosophical viewpoint of his, and it never breaks him. And then he changes the characters around him.
Right.
Yeah. Particularly the dad who
absolutely.
finally grows a set of balls at the end of the movie. Yeah. But also before that, even becomes just a warmer, more caring person for outside, I guess, who he sees as an outsider, right? So I really loved that. The climax scene was really great. Just that sort of, that turn at the end where the dad's being protective, and then Paddington says, "You know what? No, like I'm not putting this family at risk. I'm gonna, just bear this burden." Pun intended. No pun intended. That was an accident. Complete accident. But anyway, let me think. Yeah, those were my positives. It was really good.
Do you have any negatives?
Yeah, just a couple. I mean, I thought some of the gags were a little tiresome. It just felt like they were trying to introduce complications and take up time. Like with Paddington, I didn't enjoy the toothbrush in the ear shit. That was weird.
Neither did I. No, I thought it was gross. I don't appreciate.
It was really gross.
Yeah, I don't appreciate gross out, and that was like the one instance of it in this movie. And I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, especially so early when you don't even know the character yet. It kind of, and then they get even grosser because it's already gross, and then he licks his own earwax, and then you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was questionable.
Yeah, it was like the first 15-20 minutes of the movie too, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, what the hell?
Yeah.
But anyway.
And he floods the bathroom.
Yeah, and just shit like that. I get it. I kind of got it. I got it, but it was also a little bit like, all right.
Yeah, no, that
with the fucking gag.
Those cartoony gags, like him with the bathtub, like going all the way down, like those gags were the ones where I was like, I'm not digging this, Like I didn't appreciate that because it didn't make me laugh. I didn't think it added anything. But I did like the one with like the robber where he just wants to return the wallet and he ends up being a little hero and they put him in the newspaper. I did like that one, but I didn't like the bathtub one.
Well, and that one was good because that actually served a story purpose,
Yes.
That propelled us, into the next sort of scene and sequence. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought, that was really clever with him trying to return the wallet and then being like, "Oh, you have a lot of wallets."
Yeah, you have a lot of wallets.
That was good. Yeah. And then the only other, I don't even know if this is a real criticism because it's a family film, so it's kind of par for the course. But it was just very predictable for me.
Yeah, no, it is par for the course. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's really a criticism, but I just knew exactly what was going to happen at every turn. I was like, okay, he's gonna, I already knew when he went after the guy with the wallet. I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Okay, he's going to stop the guy. He's going to be in the newspaper as some sort of a hero, and then because he's in the newspaper, and I can't remember if
going to find out about him.
Yeah, she finds out. Yeah, she gets more information on him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I just knew,
Yeah. Yeah, no, and absolutely. Like,
is it really even a critique? I don't know.
But
Really.
it's interesting because, like, and I agree with you absolutely. And I think it's not a critique in the sense that you can look at that and still find enjoyment in that. Because at least I did, like with this film, where I was like, I know where this is going, and I feel happy about that. Because I think what a movie like this does to an audience member is kind of just give you what you're looking for, just give you that like reassurance and that like it doesn't. It's like a movie that is not. This is not. This is not that Adam Sandler movie. What's the name of that movie with the Safdie brothers? Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
This is not uncut. This is not Uncut Gems. Where you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like, oh my god, so much. This is a movie where you're like, okay, you know that every ending in every scene is gonna be positive, and that you're gonna rejoice, and you're gonna be like, yes, great, that's fun, So, in that sense, it's par for the course, and in a way, it is kind of like it's predictable, but in the other sense, it's like it's nice because there's comfort in that. This is like a comfort food. This is a comfort film.
I like picturing Uncut Gems like Paddington walking around now, like, oh no, what the fuck is going on? What the fucking fuck?
That'd be pretty funny.
Oh man. Yeah. What else you got? Anything else on this movie?
No, but I don't even have like trivia on this movie because there was nothing there was no trivia that was like worth mentioning, just like silly like on set stuff. Nicole Kidman got like really into acrobatics because of this movie. But I want to highlight the most popular Letterboxd review, which maybe doesn't deserve highlighting. It's a silly review, and it ties with my my failed pun at the beginning of this episode. The review says Paddington is sad, Saddington. Paddington floats the house, Baddington. Paddington loves his mind, Maddington. Oh no, loses his mind. Paddington starts a family, Daddington. And it just kind of keeps going like that.
Oh my god, man!
But yeah,
people and their cornball jokes.
But that's like the most fucking popular joke on Letterboxd. But that's all I got. What would you rate this movie, sir?
I'd probably give this movie either a 7 or an 8. It was good, man. Yeah. I liked it. I'm glad you picked it, like I said, man, because I, like you, when a family-friendly movie like this, that's, like for kids, pretty much, that like that's how family-friendly it is. Mm-hmm. It's like when it comes out and it gets rave reviews, I'm like, oh, I've been meaning to watch that. Next thing you know, it's been 5 years, and I'm like, it's like, look, every time I sit down to watch a movie, like I'm not going to watch Paddington. I'm going to watch, Terminator, or I'm going to watch, a horror film.
And
or
in Paddington's case, it's been almost 10 years. Yeah. But I'm glad.
Probably 7 or an 8. What about you?
No, but like you, I'm glad, and I think kind of that I love this podcast because that's really what it has kind of allowed us to do. In a way, it's just, to do shit like that, to do basically the shit we were doing in college, where every day you and I had to pick a film, be like, oh, what am I watching today? And some days I was just like, oh, fuck it, let's just watch this random ass, like, silly movie, or you would do that, So I'm happy about it. I would definitely give this movie a 7. Maybe I would give the sequel an 8. I would give this one a 7. I don't think it really elevates itself that much. But I think it's like a really good movie. I wouldn't go any lower than that. I could watch a movie 20 times and not go lower than that. 7 out of 10 for sure. But
I still. Oh, I was just gonna throw in too. I don't. I don't quite. I don't know what it is with the all the rave reviews and everything. Like it was good, but I don't know, man. It do I think it's better than like, or it even stands up there with like Monsters Inc. Other great family friendly films like Monsters Inc. I love, one of my favorites of all time is like Ice Age too. I love the original Ice Age. As far as family friendly, I hate Ice animated films go. You hate Ice Age?
I hate Ice Age.
I love it. Dude, Ice Age is great, man.
I hate that
dude, get the fuck out of here,
dude.
Man. That's unbelievable.
Dude, I hated that movie as a kid. I hated that movie.
Really?
As a kid, I didn't
Wow.
like that movie.
What gives?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I should explore like my feelings. I hated that movie as a kid, dude. I have the movie at a 2 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. You have it at a 9. I have it at a 2.
Dude, you're out of your mind.
Dude, I hate that.
You're out of your mind.
Dude, I hate that movie. I hate that movie.
But anyway, my point is, yeah, like I don't think Paddington's as good as like Shrek or Ice Age or Monsters Inc. Like, dude, Paddington can't touch Monsters Inc.
Paddington's better than Ice Age.
Fuck no. Hell no, man. No, Ice Age has a lot of payoff, man. Especially for a kids movie. Oh my god, man, it's so good.
But no, I agree with you.
Know what you're talking about.
No, but I agree with you in saying that I don't think it's greater than the great family films, but I do think it stands on its own, and I think it's pretty good. But that's why I wouldn't give it an 8, because to me an 8 is just like a great film, and that's why I'm just saying this is a 7 out of 10. This is just like a really good movie.
Yeah. I agree.
But that being said, Mister, do you have a film for us for next week?
Well, I don't have a film quite yet,
Okay.
but I think I'm gonna invoke what we've been talking about for a little while. I think next week, I'd like us to do a commentary.
Look at that!
And venture into C- territory, in the words of. We'll do better than a C- this time.
We'll try.
No, it'll be good. Because I think with what I've realized with commentaries, you want to do a commentary on a film that you've seen before, so you don't have to fully pay attention. You
absolutely.
can comment on things you know are coming up,
Yeah.
knowledge that you have on the film's production, and it should also be good.
Yeah.
Neither of those things actually applied to our assignment in college.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more about this, ladies and gentlemen, go to the Bill and Ted episode from last week, and we begin that episode with a story of how Edward and I tried to get our college professor to change our grade on an assignment.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm gonna just kind of decide which of the which movie we should do. Obviously, a movie we've both seen. I have, you and I have that list in our notes that we share with all those movies, so we can kind of talk about it too. But I'll see which one I think is the best, and we'll go from there. But next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to change it up for the first time ever on Film Tangents. We're going to do a Film Tangents commentary.
Yeah.
And that is all because right now your boss is commenting in your Teams chat, wondering where the fuck you are. So get back to work.
Hey everybody, next time on Film Tangents, we're out.
We out.